And so this would be part 2, and I'm going to dive into immigration, and I'm going to address why it is so important that we define false gods, that we define the word religion, because it should not have protection under the Charter, under our Constitution, and the coronation oath certainly covers that. The resource that we have includes at the bottom Supreme Court rulings over and over again that Canada is indeed a Christian nation. We're not going to take all this garbage that we're secular, post-national state with no core identity or a multicultural nation. 100% a lie. Nothing in the Charter or the Constitution supports that. The section of the Charter that deals with multiculturalism is restricted based on the fact that the supremacy of God and the rule of law, everything that follows, must abide by the supremacy of the Christian God and our rule of law, the Magna Carta, which is based on Christian principles, which means that, yes, we may have many people from many cultures living here, but they must integrate and assimilate. This is powerful information. So the title is The New Tower of Babel: How Mass Immigration is Transforming Alberta's Classrooms. And it's not just Alberta, it's transforming society at large. I can't go to the bank, I can't go to the grocery store, I can't walk down the street and understand anything that is being spoken. And I am not exaggerating. Come to Surrey, go for a short walk, go to any of the local stores, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And even for those immigrants that think, that they're really feeling emboldened to behave however they want, it's a multicultural nation. That's what they're telling us. My language is important, and I'm allowed to speak it. And it's like, no, the languages in Canada are either official languages are English or French. And that's what we've got to insist on. What you speak in your home is your business, but when you're in public, when you're in a public facility, when you're in a government facility, it should only be English and French. And this is dividing Canadians, and all of these immigrants are being used as pawns by the government for their divisive agenda to tear down Christianity and the construct, the original, what our founding fathers gifted us with. And so they came here for our freedom and democracy, but they don't want to accept and they don't want to support what that was based on, which is a Christian foundation. So they'd rather bring their failed foreign systems of governance into Canada and reconstruct them here to bring the same third world into Canada. Where do you think this is going to be in yet even another decade? Look at where we are already at. It's only going to get worse, and we have a right and a duty to take a stand against it. Now, I was mentioning that Louise Arbour was officially brought into her position on Monday, and guess what some of her first comments were? Extreme polarization and consensus are dangerous, and a better country can only be built through the peaceful management of our differences. I mean, let that absorb in. When you see, I've been studying all of this for 2 days, for years, but preparing for the presentation today. Let that sink in. Peaceful management of our differences? That's impossible with what's going on in our nation right now because of the individuals they have focused on fast tracking into Canada from foreign nations that will never comply and have no desire to assimilate or integrate. She goes on to say, the former Supreme Court justice said, our ability to coexist peacefully despite our differences is critical to maintaining a lawful, rules-based society. What happens when all of these individuals in this diversity, these people, they don't respect our laws. They have no interest in respecting our laws. It is through our differences and our fundamental right to express them that we will nourish critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. This is impossible. This is Justin Trudeau saying diversity is our strength. So the new Governor General, Louise Arbour, handpicked, is just spouting the same nonsense that Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney are. There is no way to coexist with people that hate you, have no respect for you, and their objective is to see who can outpopulate us the fastest to have dominance in Canada and call Canada, I don't know, what is it going to be? Khalistan, Hindu, Muslim? We have a good idea of who's going to be the most successful. So let's go over some of the headlines. So there was no jail for I can't even say it, national, for cruel, violent domestic assault. The judge acknowledged the sentence was unlikely to satisfy the victim, who likely continues to suffer some consequences of the crime. I won't bother going into that's the National Post, the report. What happened through this individual beating and violently attacking a woman. Never mind about her. He just didn't know any better. So there will be no jail time for him. There's this leniency. There is no equality of the law. So I don't know what Louise Arbour is talking about. She needs to have a real reality check of what's going on. Maybe somebody could send her this presentation, because I'm very curious to know how this is going to be justified as far as equality and the diversity and all of us being able to peacefully coexist, because we know that's a complete, it just can never happen. It's like we're living in the twilight zone right now. Here's another one. Judge waives fines for migrant who spread feces in a girl's face because I don't know, I think it was his cell phone broke or something. What was it? It cut off there. Ethiopian immigrant, repeat offender, gets 227 days in jail after assaulting Vancouver, BC teen girl with feces. He sexually assaulted her and he shoved feces in her mouth and smeared it on her face. She escaped and fled to a home. And when the police showed up, he was already moving towards a lady with a stroller, to introduce her to his culture. Okay, this is not a good sign for Canada. In Winnipeg, City Hall raises the Sikh, somebody put Khalistani terrorist flag on Canadian soil. I won't repeat the rest of it, but it was a video. I just took a screenshot of it. So the Sikhs are seeking power everywhere they go. You can see that happening in our streets. And then this is another one that happened in Winnipeg. Jaspal Singh Gill was denied the opportunity to complete a police recruitment exam because of his kirpan. So he was supposed to go in. His dream was to be a police officer in Canada. He shows up there dressed with his turban and his kirpan, and the Winnipeg police said, nope, can't do that. We've got an area where you can lock your kirpan in there. And he cried about discrimination and, of course, moved forward with that. And so following outreach from WSO, WPS confirmed it's developing a policy with input from local experts and will accommodate Jaspal Singh moving forward. Why? Why? It says no one should be forced to choose between their faith and pursuing a career in public service. This is another important step toward ensuring Sikh articles of faith are understood and respected. I'm sorry, but that's a weapon. And I'm going to show you why. All right, it's when the population gets to a certain number, that between Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus, that Canadians who are not of these cultures are being put more and more at risk. Why are we accommodating this? According to biblical standards, right? There's absolutely no way we should be accommodating this. And unless we embrace the documents that I am providing for you, we don't have a position. And so unless we're all going to unite and say enough of this, I've had atheists and agnostics who agree with me. They would rather live under a country that is founded on Christian principles than the 56 Islamic majority countries, North Korea, Pakistan, India, or any other country with a differing belief system. Because we've all been very well introduced into Canada, what these other cultures eventually have to offer. In small numbers, they're okay. They seem like nice neighbors. But as they grow, they don't put their old culture behind them. Nobody's expecting them to. And that's putting us at risk. And sorry, this seems to be uploading. So what I had prepared here, I've just got to scroll down a little bit, because yesterday I was just shocked to find out. I'll start at the end of this, and maybe you've seen all of this. I said, let's see how many postings from Hindus and Sikhs with guns I can find. And I won't play them, but you can see here all over BC, Ontario, I'm not sure where else in Canada, they're outright just bringing semi-automatic weapons, shotguns, and then posting them. Look at this guy in a park. And it's, they say, Bishnoor gang member caught shooting illegal firearms. Are these people being deported right away? I don't want them arrested and sitting in our jails with Canadians paying, for them to feed them and to house them for 6 months until they get out. Here's another one. This was a guy in Calgary caught with a handgun public. This counts. This was a parade in Brampton, Ontario. I don't know. How do you think those kids are going to grow up in Canada? There's another video of course, the Sikhs hate the Hindus. And so they had somebody stuff that's probably Hindus right there that they're shooting at. Why are there wars, these foreign wars, being permitted in our country? So Louise Arbour, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about the violence of all this diversity entering our country? It just keeps going on. And then the Bishnoa gang has sent a letter to the Abbotsford police saying that they've got 1,000 foot soldiers across Canada just ready to carry out extortion and shootings nationwide. All right, so if you're following me on X, these are the sort of things that I'm providing you so that you can be informed of what's happening. I'm going to play this one, and you'll just get just a little bit of a taste of the diversity and how this is working out as well. I believe these are Sikhs, Hindus.
2 a.m. on a Friday in early April, a pair of suspects approaches a home in Peel Region and begins to shoot.
Shootings, arsons, repeated threats, and extortion attempts. The violence was not random. They were specifically targeted and escalated over time. Today we're announcing the arrest of 17 individuals.
A total of 324 rounds discharged into homes and businesses, allegedly by suspects.
Okay, so this is the charming group.
6 of them may face immigration action, with a total of 106 criminal.
Will they face immigration action? Every single one of them should be deported here. Even if their families were the ones that immigrated, just deport them all. I mean, this is prevalent throughout these cultures. And I'm sick of us feeling like we need to be accommodating, accepting, and that if it's as if it's discriminatory to speak out about this. We didn't have these kind of problems prior to this so-called multiculturalism. It doesn't work. It's a failure. It was never expected to succeed. They knew exactly what they were going to do by bringing the third world in here. Now, all of you will say, well, I have very nice Sikh neighbors, a nice Sikh or a nice Muslim neighbor. And that's great. Have they integrated and assimilated? Because I know some very nice neighbors as well. And we chat, and they're very upset about this. They came 30 or 40 years ago. And they said, we didn't get financial accommodation. We had to integrate and assimilate. They speak English. They speak English in public. They don't like funding this. They don't like the direction. They left those countries to have a better life in Canada. And that's going to be the expectation. And I'm not going to sit back and apologize for that. This needs to stop. They all need to go. The nearly 5 million temporary visas, ship them all out. Ship them all out. And put a moratorium in immigration. And let's focus on bringing in the Christian Nigerians who are being massacred, and anybody else who's a Christian that wants to come in this country that will align with our values. Make no mistake about it. We're a Christian nation, and people need to come here. They need to be vetted to integrate and assimilate into our values. And we're going to be shutting down all these false gods in Canada because this is the root of the problem. They don't think like us. They don't believe like us. And I'm not going to sit here and have them, after all of the evidence that we have and after what's going on in their countries, to say there's a few nice ones in our country, because this is not Canadian. I don't want to look outside and literally they're all wearing their traditional clothing. They're all speaking in a language that I don't understand. If I wanted to move to an Islamic country or a Hindu country or Sikh country, I would have done that. But I have zero desire to do that because of the oppression and violence that's going on in that country. And we're being convinced that we need to accept this and that we need to shut up and be silent about it instead of defend our country, which we have a right to do. Now, you all know about the tragedy of Henry Nowak, who was walking home and 2 Sikhs approached him. And what do you know? The 2 Sikh brothers, and he pulled out his dagger from his sheath and he stabbed him 5 times and he killed him. And then these liars ended up calling the police to say that this young white male, that it was a hate crime against them. And so the police come and they arrest him while he's dying, and he's telling him, I'm dying, I've been sick. They handcuff him, drag him away, and Henry Nowak dies. And then it was even after that, this happened some time ago, the police were recording the two Sikhs in the paddy wagon. They heard them consulting each other on what had happened, and they never made it public. They never gave the parents even the rest to know, yes, they actually were the ones that they had lied, screamed racism. And that is the way of advancing these problems: racism, hate. These words have become so politicized. And I'll have a personal testimony on exactly how that's happening here in Canada as well. So don't tell me these daggers don't pose a threat to Canadians. It just takes one or two to set them off. Now, Manitoba has launched, I've talked about this before. That link just shut down for some reason. So I'll just go to the one that I had open. They are launching this anti-Islamophobia action plan. It happened some months ago. And the Muslims, of course, are behind this. And I believe it was it NCCM? The Muslim community that were pushing for this, and they want to recognize and celebrate by highlighting Muslim identities and histories in school culture and acknowledging important observances. Muslims don't have a history in here. We're celebrating in Canada. Okay, equip and empower by offering educators supportive resources and learning opportunities to foster inclusion. And basically, they want to come in and indoctrinate our children. It's an anti-Islamophobia action plan. There's no such word as Islamophobia. It's a made-up word. In fact, my Liberal MP decided not to participate in the motion M103 vote when it went before the House, because they're saying there's no way you can legislate against fear. So we have every reason to be fearful of Islam, because the Quran says over 109 times it talks about killing the non-believers. And so this is a Christian Canadian country, not an Islamic country. And unless we say enough is enough, pull this out, we've got to do an action against this, and we got to put a stop to it and have them rescind putting this into the school system. Now, let's take a look at this video that I came across. So this is a Muslim, and you know that Carney has put together some new combating a new council against anti-Israel. There's going to be funding, and it's only one Jewish person is actually on the council. I'll be talking about that in a moment as well. But hear what this Muslim solemnly comes up and so genuinely is requesting.
This handbook offers concrete recommendations that government can undertake immediately to address the ongoing challenge of Islamophobia in Canada, and we have 4 main recommendations. The first is that we endorse and call upon the government for the implementation of recommendations already advanced by parliamentary and government bodies, including the Senate Human Rights Committee, the House of Commons Justice Committee, and the Federal Guide to Combating Islamophobia. Across these reports, there is a clear consensus that combating Islamophobia requires deep structural reform and sufficient institutional capacity. Second, and in light of the documented rise in anti-Muslim hate and incidents and violent Islamophobia, we advance recommendations focusing on protecting Muslim communities and community spaces. The federal government should allocate at least $40 million through the Canada Community Security Program or a comparable dedicated funding stream to support security infrastructure and protective measures for approximately 755 mosques and 100 Islamic schools. This amount is proportional to the legitimate allocation of $10 million investment to help protect Jewish communities from hate-motivated crimes and violence. Security in our most sacred spaces.
I've had enough of that, and I'm not sure how you're feeling about it right now. But as I said, Islamophobia is a made-up word. It's meant to shut down reasonable concerns about the advancements of Islam. In the reports I'll show you, between the Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims, these minority groups are causing a majority of the crime in Canada. We know that they're very, very clear on wanting world domination. So why are we allowing this and justifying this to advance in Canada? Absolutely not. It's very critical that we shut this down, that we get people elected into office who will not allow, I'm sorry, this is treason. This is undermining Canadian sovereignty and our democracy. And it's got to be stopped. So in a report that I've written, I'm just going to say, as I've mentioned, so a method of stealth jihad is Muslims are using the term Islamophobia in Western nations to quell criticism of Islam. The term Islamophobia is a politically manufactured weapon and not a shield against hate. It is a strategic tool used to dismantle Western values from within. It was deliberately crafted to silence all criticism of Islam, particularly of its radical and political branches. And if I could go back and rewrite this, I probably wouldn't say it's radical and political branches. I'd say based on the Quran. Okay, if a Muslim isn't following the Quran, they're basically a disobedient Muslim. This is Islam. It is to come in, infiltrate, take over, and then subjugate. So it goes on as calculated effort to delegitimize public concern, suppress open debate, and provide political cover for the growing influence of Islamic networks in Canada. And I think that is a much more true description of what it is that we're facing, and the reason that Muslims come up and so solemnly and genuinely say there is rising hate in Canada regarding Muslims. Well, stop killing people and stop the communities from not integrating and assimilating to our values. Stop making parallel systems, education systems, where you're teaching kids about your culture. Why are you here? This is Canada, Canadian culture first. That's it. And when my mom and dad came, my dad from England, my mom from the Netherlands, I'm telling you, my school wasn't talking about, Dutch culture. They were teaching us reading, writing, and arithmetic, and about Canadian history. And that's what I expect will continue in Canada. And he talks about 740, 55 mosques and 100 Islamic schools. Let's shut them down, because this is causing a great deal of division and harm. And then it's on them to make a decision. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? Because we're not willing to lose our sovereignty to accommodate you. And we're sick of being called hateful or discriminatory because we believe we have a right. And we do have a right, and we have a duty to protect our national sovereignty. You have 56 Islamic majority countries who practice exactly what it is that you desire. And this is an Islamic school in North Vancouver that I've reported before. It's reported that all of the directors have some sort of ties to Hezbollah. And the receipts are in a report on that. And so the individual that provided me with this, so this is what is in the schools. And this is what it is that they're teaching about the martyrs. Write about your favorite martyr. And here's one with grenades strapped to his waist. We have other information from Alberta as well. And it is regarding another Islamic school. And Sneaky, one of the teachers, has had purchased books that radicalize students. They had pro-Palestinian all in their schools. This is happening across Canada nationwide. I've had videos from years ago where an Islamic school in Ontario was teaching beheadings. School after school, document after document. I mean, the police and the government know all about this because we've provided it to them, and yet they want to say nothing to see here. This is the religion of peace, and yet what we're able to identify is anything but. Just to go back to this report for a moment as well, is that this is a report, an in-depth report that I haven't made public yet, and it has to do with Alberta and the advancements of Islamic organizations tied to the Muslim Brotherhood and how they're operating in schools. It gives all the receipts. It gives all the facts and information. I could do this on every single province of how, if there's Islamic schools in a province, you can bet that we start documenting it, start researching these, go on the Facebook page, you'll find exactly what I have. And this is the kind of information we need to bring forward to elected officials with the hope and the prayer that they are actually going to act on it. But without this kind of investigative reporting, and you hand it in a legitimate manner, we're going to continue to see this problem growing. And so that's why I would encourage you, at some time, like I say, I will make this public, but not at this time. And so even just this little bit that I've shown you, let's go back to Louise Arbour's comments about talking about extreme polarization and consensus are dangerous in a better country can only be built through the peaceful management of our differences. Does this look like we're going to be able to negotiate with the Muslims or the Sikhs or the Hindus? Do you think they want us negotiating with them? Or do you think they all have a pretty clear objective? Because, in all fairness, my mom and dad became Christians when I was 9, but I was brought up in a Canadian culture. I learned about Canadian history, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very, very proud of it. And so my belief system is very set. Nobody's going to change my mind about this. So now you take other people that are coming here en masse, who have, from the time they were born, been taught a certain culture and a belief system that's ingrained in them, that they embrace. And then you put us all together and you expect us all to get along as everybody's vying for position to see who's going to have the power. What she says is complete nonsense, and she needs to be called out on it, because the proof is right here. I mean, I have spent hundreds of hours, thousands through the years on this subject. And over the last couple of days, hour after hour, I couldn't keep up with what's being posted from places all around the world, going through exactly what I'm showing you here. And this is just a minimal amount of what's out there to report on. Now, Julie Pickering is a member of the Texas State Board of Education. I met Julie when I was in Washington, and she's a real powerhouse. And so when we're talking again about what are the Muslims doing, what are they lobbying for in our school systems, and what I've shown you in Manitoba is exactly what's going on behind our backs. And so Julie puts it in such a good perspective. So I decided to play this video so you understand what's happening right here in Canada and why what's going on in Manitoba with the anti-Islamophobia motion. And then this Muslim speaking out that we need to have anti-Islamophobia nationwide. It's like, no, we don't. And we're not going to. And we're going to fight this with everything we've got. And we have every reason to. So here she goes.
We had the organization testify before the Texas State Board of Education, again, the Council on American Islamic Relations, which Governor Abbott has designated as a foreign terrorist organization, which the FBI has said is the face of the Muslim Brotherhood, another terrorist organization. So today I'm going to dealing with terrorists, they make demands. So I'm going to share with you the demand letter from Shema Zayan, Z-A-Y-A-N, who says that she is the operations manager for the Council of American Islamic Relations. Okay, so this is what they want. They want taught to students in Texas that 1/3 of all slaves in America were Muslim, and that they were enslaved because of their Muslim faith, and they were persecuted and killed during slavery because of their Muslim faith. So that's why they were enslaved. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. David Martin, if you're watching this, you are a great historical scholar. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're 1/3 of all slaves in America Muslim. I don't know. I've never seen evidence to that or thought about that. The other thing that they want is they want the Mayflower Compact not to be taught. Another thing that they want is they want Columbus, all references to Columbus and Columbus Day removed. Another thing they want is they want Thanksgiving removed. Specifically, they want the 1789 President George Washington proclamation about Thanksgiving and the Thanksgiving prayer, which is a National Archive document. This is a presidential proclamation. They want that removed. They don't want students from Texas learning about Thanksgiving or George Washington's Thanksgiving prayer. Another thing that they want is they want added that the Alamo was influenced by Islam. Did you know, according to them, I mean, this is so laughable. This is such a rewrite of history. Did you know that according to
Okay, so you get a good idea where this is going. And she ends up saying, this is a hard no. Like, this is not going to happen in Texas. Texas are fighting for their life right now, like every other Western country. The U.S. has these hot spots. I'm in touch with some individuals down in Texas, and the battle is real. And as their numbers grow, they become more emboldened. They push and push for these kinds of changes and to rewrite our history. And are you kidding me? And I'm going to show you how, even in a slight way, I found something today where that's happening. But, they want to say that, anyways, I'll get to it. It's just dumbfounding. The more that the population increases, this is where their demands go. Complete nonsense. All right, so Texas governor designates Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as terrorist organizations. I just wanted to re-emphasize that and how important it is. I have been asking since since year ago, June, the Conservative Party to sponsor an e-petition to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. And one Conservative MP after the other has declined. And why is that? Pierre Poilievre was out in Vancouver on the art gallery stairs with a sea of Persians in front of him, screaming about the IRGC and how they need to be removed from Canada. And it's like, how much do you really feel that, Pierre? Like, how can you say that when you're not taking any affirmative actions? And if there's a Conservative MP who's willing to sponsor this e-petition, reach out to me, because we need to get this going now. I mean, we've got groups like I'll be covering it. I won't go into that right now, but we got to take action. And so this was massive. Amy Meck is just doing an amazing job in the US. And so the Department of Health and Human Services under RFK is now investigating the Council of American Islamic Relations for alleged terror ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and demanding answers on where 30 million in taxpayer dollars of Afghan refugee settlement actually went. So, there's all these big battles going on in the US. And the reason I'm talking about this is that, they've got these elected officials, many of them, who are willing to take this on to save America. And I can't get one Conservative MP to step up. You know who is willing to step up? Maxime Bernier. I wouldn't have to ask him twice. So, we got these people leaving as MPs, going over to the Liberal Party. But how about, some of these Conservative MPs walking over and crossing the aisle and helping Maxime out? We would have abortion legislation moving forward. We would, be able to address the threat of mass migration in this country, and we could really get something going. So I'm going to put that challenge out there to a Conservative MP, because we need your help. If you love Canada, stop thinking that the Conservative Party is the answer, because they're not doing anything as far as this is concerned. I'm not going to play this. This is Philip Haney. He is absolutely amazing. He's a Islamic expert and former Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security Department. And he ended up getting removed some time ago because the Muslims started to lobby the government that the intelligence wouldn't be talking about extreme Islam or Muslims, and so whoever was president at that time and who was ever in charge of Homeland Security complied. There we go. So I should here we are given details regarding 2 purges where the Obama administration, upon the request of Muslim organizations, removed incriminating evidence proving terrorist organizations were at work in the United States. And so this has caused a lot of problems in intelligence, because new people that are in intelligence, police officers, are not being trained on the truth about Islam. And so that's why it's having this devastating effect. And you can bet that in the UK and Canada, the condition would be the same. And this was War Plan Exposed Muslim Brotherhood Secret Blueprint. Again, I'm bringing up the Muslim Brotherhood because I really want you to understand that they are operating in Canada. And it is alleged that the Muslim Association of Canada and the NCCM have both ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. This is not something I'm saying. It's been reported widely. And so it goes on about, I've talked about the Muslim Brotherhood before in the explanatory memorandum, that they want to enter our miserable house from within and take over. And that's where they get into key positions of government. They start lobbying government. They start pressing for change, accommodations. They have workplace accommodations. They use our provincial human rights tribunals to push for favorable decisions. This is how they do it. They got a 100-year plan, and they're about 50 years into it, I believe. And they have made incredible steps towards their goal of world domination and infiltrating and taking over our countries. And it is critical that we take this very seriously. This is a report that I have on the page under current issues. And if you go down the page, there's videos reporting on this that I've done in the past. And this is a report specific to Canada. John Gondola is a terrorism expert in the States. Great show with him. Petition on stopping mass migration. Other resources that you can read from other experts who are reporting on the threat of Islam. And then at the bottom of the page as well, there's other resources you can go down to. But we also care about the Muslims because they're being deceived in this cult under this false god. And they need to know the truth about Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, because the Bible says in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And the devil is the great deceiver. And interestingly, the Quran says, Allah says that he's the great deceiver. Well, the Bible says that's the devil. And so they're almost speaking it and telling us. And, so this is not hateful, it's factual. It's what the Quran says. The Quran shows the 109 verses that want to cause us great harm. And so many Muslims are having dreams, it's reported, of Jesus visiting them and coming to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. There is massive amounts of church. It's reported. I just saw another report in Iran. And this was what happens when people are having to live under extremism for a period of time. They end up getting to their knees because they realize that this belief system is violent and it is causing harm, and there is no actual peace within it. And so we want people to find that hope and inspiration. And if you click on this link, it will provide testimonies from ex-Muslims who converted to Christianity. And maybe those individuals can speak to your heart with the truth. And now I've recently on Sunday, these two individuals knocked on my door, and actually, they were pretty nice. This is Constable Mason and Constable Banga, and they were here to inform me that there had been a complaint, and they were investigating myself or Action for Canada for content that we have on our website or on our X account under Section 319, subsection 2, willful promotion of hate. And as I carried on the conversation, I recorded right away. I'm not making that public because they didn't give me any details. And so it was a civil, reasonable conversation. And they asked me if I wanted to come in and speak with them. And I said, well, no, because I have no idea what this is about. There's no hate on our website. As you can see, I said everything is based on fact. And if anybody wants to go and challenge me on that, this is our website. Everything here is exactly has evidence to back it up. And I'll tell you, this report, The Rise of Political Islam, I wrote it in 2019 in response to that Liberal MP I was telling you about, Ken Hardy, when I gave him a report of all of the news reports that I could find, like within minutes, about 30 of them. It was before Motion M103 was, at around that time, was being voted on. It's just a motion, not law. And he said, oh, anybody can cherry pick, Tanya. And I was like, cherry picking, are you kidding me? It took me no time at all to find these links. And so a little while later in 2020, I had intelligence get a hold of me, and you'd have to understand what this report is about. So the part one goes on the government's their actions in facilitating this and moving it forward. Section 2, you'd have to go down as actual news reports. And I stopped in 2019 because it became too cumbersome. I do have one report there, but you can see all the news reports on the violence, the terrorism. And then the third one is what's being preached. Oh, way down there. You see it just keeps going. And that was the purpose of it. And so part 3 is what's being taught in the mosques, Islamic schools. It's not good. It's not good. And they told me this is 100% accurate. So to have police, knocking on my door right now saying that I've said something that's hateful, I'm like, absolutely not. This is based on evidence. And this is a Christian nation. We have a right as Canadian citizens to defend our nation from this threat. And here is another piece of evidence. The Quran contains at least 109 verses that speak of war with non-believers, usually on the basis of their status as non-Muslims. Some are quite graphic and with commands to chop off heads and fingers and kill infidels. Well, we see the heads being chopped off right now. We've got all kinds of reports throughout Europe and the UK, and here's a ton of the reports. You can go to this website, thereligionofpeace.com, and you can research it for yourself. And that's why I say, for lack of knowledge, people perish. Just real quick, I'm going to whip through some headlines. Slain teen was targeted. Windsor homicide. Investigators say this just happened. Hatim Hamid was charged with the murder of this young Caucasian man. And I'm not sure why these are flipping, but it was another individual. Adil Ali has had his airport security access revoked at the GTA currently, as an investigation is ongoing. He worked for Greater Toronto Airports Authority. He was putting all kinds of information online about Jews are chosen people of the devil and murdering people and this type of thing. So, well, thank God he's under review, but how the heck do these guys get into our country? What is going on? Another news report, Iraqi refugee turned Toronto police officer, Parsa Hazari, has been charged with sexually assaulting a minor child luring and suspended without pay. Okay, this guy's charming. He was at an Al-Quds Day rally in Canada, and I'm not playing the video, but he was sitting there making stabbing, threatening motions. The police are standing right there, turning a blind eye to it. Doug Ford, we've done petitions in the past to stop Al-Quds Days. They're a hate fest. They have no business. This is a foreign ideology on our soil. It is a hate fest. It needs to go. 7 more suspects identified in shooting death of Anthony Taylor at Rexdale THC building. There's some charming individuals. Let's see if we can find some more. Police named those responsible for stealing $24 million in gold and cash from Toronto Pearson Airport. Again, how did some of these individuals, get into Canada, and why are they working of all places at our airport? And wow, I wonder what Louise Arbour thinks about this and the diversity and how we're all going to peacefully live together. And so I love what a judge ruled recently in 2025. Judge rules immigration to Canada is not a right. He says Davis upheld the decision, writing the province had broad discretion in managing the integrity of its immigration system. And I want every single premier to hear this. You have the power. You have the power to remove these people and shut this down. Take the authority, protect the citizens that you've taken an oath to represent, and do something heroic, for Pete's sakes. I mean, it's unbelievable the state that we're at. Now, I'm just going to slightly cover what's going on if you hadn't seen it. Starmer calls for calm after Belfast migrant beheading attempt protests break out across the UK. Apparently, he gouged out this young man's eye. I unfortunately saw this video, and I was grieving yesterday and horrified at the same time, because as these individuals, more mass migration from these particular individuals allowing him in our country, we can expect more of this here in Canada as well. I've just shown you a few headlines, and that was a few of what I could have spent hours here just with the headlines of evidence to prove what's going on in Canada. Starmer's office has also urged the public not to inflame tensions or spread misinformation while the police investigate the motive behind the attack. There was no motive. These people are crazy. They're demonic. And you're letting them en masse into our country. What do you expect is going to happen? And then he tries to call it horrific, as the MPs are in their office trying to censor X for spreading misinformation and hate for what's happening in Belfast right now, as the people of Ireland are fed up. And so Naomi Long is the Northern Ireland Justice Minister, and she comes in saying that those who are carrying out violent acts are weaponizing genuine hurt, concern, and anger that people are feeling. Disorder on the streets, and she's referring to now the warrior men have come up, and they're burning down the hotels because they have flooded Northern Ireland with migrant men. And they're held up in these, of course, these hotels. Recently, I've heard of the rape of a little girl there. I mean, this is like the final straw. What is she talking about? Weaponizing genuine hurt? You've weaponized immigration. You've allowed this, Naomi Long. Disorder on the street, such as we are seeing tonight, is diverting valuable police resources away from those who genuinely need them. Who would that be? Where have the police been? The people have been coming out for months and months and months, and the police have had blockades, not allowing them to protest against the mass migration of these violent individuals into their country. Everybody in Western nations who has a clue is cheering on the Irish to say, finally, take out your government, remove them from office, and get people in there who are going to be serious about removing this threat from your nation. They've taken an oath. Okay, Ireland is also under the coronation oath. So if you know anybody in Ireland, start getting the information. Action for Canada is getting out there, because this is unbelievable that they would try to frame this as if our citizens have to shut up and sit down while they have commenced war against their citizens. They wanted civil unrest. It's coming, and I pray for their success. This was just another image. I mean, this is being reported everywhere. And as Bridget Gabriel in the United States says, nations have an absolute right to reject invaders and asylum seekers who import knives, chaos, and carnage. Self-preservation isn't bigotry, it's survival. And that's what we as Canadians, we need to understand. We need to survive this. That means we put Canada first, we put Canadians first, and these immigrants that are coming in, if they don't want to integrate and assimilate, and if people like Louise Arbour and Mark Carney aren't going to take their position and their job seriously, Canadians have no choice but to rise up and protect our children and the future of this nation, because we have a beautiful country and we're absolutely going to take it seriously. Okay, Amy Mack again, she put the Muslim voting machine, America's pathetic low turnout is surrendering the country to Islam, because they have a very targeted objective to take over as many seats as possible at all levels of government, just like in Canada. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is only a couple. I'm only going to name a few of the individuals who are in office who pose a concern. Not saying all of these are bad people, but they pose a concern based on the information we've been able to locate freely on the internet. This gentleman's name is Mickey Amery. He is the Attorney General in Alberta. He's Lebanese. And yes, as some say, it's odd, he's a red-headed person, but he is Lebanese and he is a Muslim. His real name is Qasim Mohammed Maki Amery. He goes by Mickey Amery. He's born here. His father was from Lebanon and has served as an MLA in Alberta for a long period of time. They are both very well respected. Mickey is coming up through the ranks to Attorney General. That's a incredible position to have, but with it, I have some concerns because of some of the individuals that he associates with. So over here on the left is Mickey Amery. I had the incredible honor of welcoming esteemed community leaders from Alberta's vibrant Muslim community to discuss our shared vision for justice and community building. As Minister of Justice and someone of Lebanese heritage, this meeting holds a special place in his heart. Our discussions emphasize the importance of ongoing engagement between government and communities. But there's concerns over that they've got Sharia banking in America, which he celebrates. There's looks of a Sharia court system coming in. There's other concerns that we have about the way that Mickey Amery is spending his time in office. There was a report, an interview done when rightfully he was very proud of, at that time he came in as a minister under Child Services. But as the reporter goes, do you think the Muslim, Arab, and Lebanese community are well integrated into the society? So I would believe they are. We can trace back the contribution of the Lebanese community, for example, to the 1800s here in Alberta. It is actually verifiable that the Lebanese community in small towns like Lac La Biche, which is a town north of Edmonton, were the first pioneers who came to Alberta and built a mosque there. We then built a mosque in Edmonton, which is the second largest mosque in North America. It is in Edmonton. It's called the Al Rashid Mosque. Now, I've done a very special report, the one in Alberta, and it talks about the Al Rashid Mosque because they have very controversial people that come to that mosque. There have been people with reports with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. So these are reasons why I would be concerned about Mickey Amery's, maybe his priorities or his loyalties. Here is a report I went after reading that. I thought, gee, I don't ever hear about the Muslims being here in the 1800s and establishing anything noteworthy in the history books. So I went into a couple of AI and I asked, and it came back, said no Lebanese or broader Arab Muslim community in Alberta in the 1800s. Lebanese immigration to Canada, then often called Syrians from the Ottoman Empire, began in the late 19th century, mostly in eastern Canada. Significant arrivals in Alberta, Western Canada, started in the early 20th century, specifically around 1905 to 1906 for the Lac La Biche area. Lac La Biche specifically, the first notable Lebanese settler, such as Ali Aman Abshadi, also known as Alex, and his uncle, arrived in the region around 1905 to 1906. They were peddlers and fur traders who later opened a store. Okay, mosque building. The Al Karim Mosque in this area was built in the 1950s. It was Canada's second mosque. Canada's first mosque, as he said, was the Al Rashid. So I'm not feeling good about this. Is this rewriting our history for some reason? Giving credit where credit isn't due? And then this is another report. I'm just going to highlight this before I go down. Halal products. Because halal is being accepted in Alberta. Halal banking. There's halal food products. By integrating halal standards into public policy, we are allowing Islamic doctrine to shape Canadian institutions. Halal is not just a food preference, it's a vehicle for enforcing Sharia norms across society, quietly, broadly, and without consent. This undermines our values and erodes our national identity. This is not about accommodation, it's about submission. It's important to note that according to the Quran 5:5, all food is lawful. So there is no reason to have the halal food. It is a matter of, again, requesting an accommodation and expecting Canadians and Canadian businesses to agree with it. And one of those Canadian businesses, I'll just show you en masse, is Costco. I don't have a Costco membership, but I went there with somebody and I was horrified because the actual signs with the price tag on them say nothing about this being halal chicken. Absolutely every piece of chicken is halal, and it has a little symbol down in the left corner. I do have pictures of that, but I decided just to alert you and warn you. So halal, when halal, there's proven reports that some of the money that goes towards this goes towards funding terrorism, and the cruelty from which animals are killed. They, for cattle, for instance, they slit the throat or the goat or the sheep while the animal is alive and let them bleed out. Okay, this is against Canadian animal humane legislation that we have. And yet it's happening across Canada. And I questioned the meat department, the manager that was on that day. And I said, what's this all about? You have no signage. People need to know that this has been sacrificed to a false god. In the Bible very clearly tells us not to eat meat sacrificed to idols. So as a Christian nation, there should be zero halal. And when I questioned him about the chickens, he's like, oh, no, it's not cruel. It goes up some conveyor the way they're slaughtering it. It's like, why are we putting our Canadian businesses out of business and supporting the Muslims? So that just happened to be, another question I had. Now, this report, again, it's another one that I've not released. It's back to the one that I was referring to earlier for Alberta. And it talks about the growing concerns about the Muslim Association of Canada, Islamic Relief Canada, Arab Medical Union, ISNA Canada, NCCM, and IRFAN. And there's all kinds of reports from people like Tom Quiggin, who is a former court-appointed terrorism expert. These people know. They've done their research. They know. They've worked amongst this. And so some of the concerns, again, is who is it that Mickey Amory is aligning with? And why is it that he is prioritizing Muslims? Like, for instance, there was an earthquake. He's very closely associated and made many trips to Lebanon with his children. He really he's very committed and devoted to his culture. Well, that's great, but you're in a Canadian position in office, a trusted position to advance Canadian interests, not Muslim interests. So why are you using your position? And I think it would be advisable that he would be removed to another department as a minister, because he's been given the latitude to advance, potentially, not saying that he is, but some of the evidence that we're seeing or some of the information that's available on the website is showing a favoritism towards Muslims. And so $1 million was sent to Iraq and Syria after, I think it was Turkey and Syria after an earthquake. But where is the $1 million for all of the persecuted Christians who are being beheaded and slaughtered in Nigeria and other nations? You see, as a Christian nation, the Bible tells us to take care of our brothers and sisters. So our priority should be to bring Christians into this nation who are being slaughtered in other nations. Wouldn't that sound right? Okay, because there's other Muslims and Sikhs who are using their positions. The former head of the military, Sikh, he was also caught and reprimanded because when the military had to clear out a certain area, he went in and made sure his own tribe were out first before Canadian military. And I'm sorry, I can't remember all the details of it. It's a lot of information. I am coming very close to the end of this presentation. I said it was going to be a long one. I just wanted to show you for Costco who are the top holders, major holders, right? It's BlackRock and Vanguard. So my question is why is everybody supporting a company that is willing to throw Canada to the wolves? Like if they go to another emergency, we're going to have no other place to shop because that's where everybody gets the deals. So they're buying their memberships. Yes, I know groceries are tight, and it's just a concern, and I want you to consider that. Who are we supporting by supporting these corporations? And again, back to the Muslim Brotherhood, MAC. They put on this event, and Muslim Brotherhood Link Group displays open call for Judean Reign Canada at Toronto Conference. And so they literally had this up, Jew-free Canada. Who's involved? The Muslim Association of Canada. So why is Mickey Amory associating himself with a group that have ongoing concerns consistently over issues like this? Why is somebody like that Attorney General in Alberta? Just a question. And I won't bother going into this report again. I think I've pretty much covered the concerns about the links of the Muslim Association of Canada and others. Now, this is Omar Al-Gabar and the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. He's just put him on the government committee on anti-Semitism. This is an individual who's wearing a keffiyeh in this, and there's this woman, I'm not even going to play it, and she is like, what are you doing? What are you doing for Palestinians? And you're in office, and we're pressing for this. And he says, oh, I'm doing lots for the Palestinians. I'm a Palestinian activist. So that's what we hear coming from him. And we've gained great ground in the last 20 years, and we're going to do more. And so all the Palestinians in Canada are demanding Palestinian advancements instead of being here and appreciating what Canada has to offer them. And so Ezra Levant did a little bit of a special on who Omar Al-Gabar is. I, again, won't go into detail on it. He's been an anti-Semite. Again, this is political entryism when Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus get into positions who are not there and have embraced Canadian culture, but are there to advance their own interests. That's when we've got a problem, and these people should be removed. And again, just as evidence of something that he says, this was dear Chief Blair, who was the former Toronto police services. I think this letter is from a while ago because I know Blair ended up head of the he was an MP and a minister. So this is Omar's words. The Canadian Arab Federation would like to express its concern at your decision to lead the walk with Israel on Sunday, May 29th, in a show of solidarity for a foreign state currently in the midst of an unresolved conflict, a country that is conducting a brutal and the longest contemporary military occupation in the world. And you gotta remember, like, are you kidding me? Like, look at what it is that the Muslims came in and did on October 7th. And there's not a word from any of these individuals that I've heard or funding from Mickey Amory saying we're going to send $1 million to Israel. You know what? Because this has been tragic. We need to, help these people heal and recover and rebuild. Not a word. And so then finally, this was, I believe, just yesterday, I don't know who this ridiculous MP is. It's the first time I've heard about him, but he is thanks MP Ahmad Hussein for co-sponsoring this bill. And this is to designate, was it July as Somali Heritage Month, or a month as Somali Heritage Month? What the heck are you talking about? This is Canada. There is Somalia, celebrate Somalia and Somalia. There's Muslim countries, celebrate it there. There's Sikh month, go celebrate it in a Sikh nation. So I won't go into it and play it, but I just wanted to show you, this is it was Minister Hussein back in 2024. And he goes, Canada continues to be deeply concerned by the persistent and worsening catastrophic humanitarian conditions and the imminent risk of famine in Gaza. The human suffering at this scale and severity requires urgent attention. So again, then he goes and sends 50 million in funding. I didn't find any funding for Israel from Minister Hussein. Zero. Using his position. Now let's take a look at Somalia as far as the countries that pose the greatest risk to Christians. Well, look at that. Somalia ends up number 2 as far as Christian persecution is concerned. And yet we're going to show favoritism and celebrate for what? Why? Why are we going to celebrate and give them the opportunity? This is not a Somalian nation. This is a Christian nation. Somebody came up with Christian Heritage Month for December. I'm sorry, great effort, but I oppose it. This is a Christian nation. We celebrate Christianity all year long. And unless we stand on that and get this rescinded and vote for people and get them into office, we're going to get what we continue to get. Now, the violent crime rate by country of origin, look at that. Somalia is top of the list. Oh, look at that. Then Lebanon, Palestine, Tanzania, Uganda, Morocco, Iraq, Algeria, Ethiopia, Syria, Afghanistan, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Ghana, Pakistan. And yet these are the people who the government chooses to flood Canada with, and we're supposed to be quiet and talk about diversity is our strength? It's not going to happen. So what can you do? I know it seems heavy, but you guys, we need to know this. You cannot turn your head away from this. You need to make this an election issue. You need to work right now within your churches, within your communities, finding people who are going to run for office. You need to fund them. You need to door knock. You need to support them. And you also need to be a scrutineer on the night of elections. You need to be involved. There's millions of Christians in Canada. There are millions of atheists and agnostics that agree with us. We could overturn every election. And yes, I know there's the election fraud, and that is an obstacle, but that's where then you have to be carefully identifying it and pressing in until we overturn this, because other countries, European countries, are having success. America worked real hard to have the success that they're experiencing, and they are fighting hard to overturn this threat in Canada, to remove the political ideologies from the schools like Alberta is doing. I don't know if you understand how huge it is what Alberta is doing. And we're going to continue to applaud them and work together with them and encourage them to continue to put Canada first, Alberta first, the citizens, Canadian citizens, old stock Canadians first, with all our culture and our belief first and foremost. And in closing, I just want to let you know that I love Michelle Sterling. She always gives awesome presentations. She's going to join us next week. And we know that Bill C-9 tried to criminalize denialism. It was so ridiculous. Thank goodness the senators that did voted that down. I want to say kudos to them, but it should have been obvious. Some of the people voted it down because it wasn't strong enough. So we'll see what they're going to come up with next. It's insane. So the title is Criminalizing Denialism, Burying the Facts. We're going to have a good session with Michelle, so be sure to join us. For tonight, the verses are from Psalm 72:8. And this is proof. This is proof that Canada is a Christian nation. He shall have dominion also from sea to sea and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Amen. Amen to that. And when July 1st comes, they want us to celebrate. They changed it to Canada Day, but we're no longer going to be sucked into that. We are going to be celebrating Dominion Day because it has an incredible biblical history as to the reason we refer to Dominion Day. The next Bible verse is Isaiah 7:9, and really think about this. If you don't stand firm in your faith, you won't stand at all. So we need something to fight for. We need to understand what it is. We're patriots. We love Canada. We have a sovereignty. We have an identity. And we're not going to allow a bunch of globalists to try to erase our identity or run roughshod over it like it doesn't exist. We're going to boldly stand on the front line, and we need this voice to raise louder and louder across the whole nation. So please share this material. And the final verse I wanted to end on is my favorite one, Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And I just say amen and amen to that. And so we're going to end a little bit different tonight. I mentioned at the beginning that there would be a video, a musical, and a tribute to a song that was written, tribute to Tommy Robinson. Stephen is his real name. And I think that for myself anyways, I got to say I got emotional today. It did bring me to tears, because he is someone that has put everything out there to be a model to every man on how to stand up and to be fearless. Regardless of what they did to him, he has gone forward through imprisonments in the worst conditions, solitary confinement that you can imagine. He continued to take a stand, and because of that, all of this is coming to fruition. The rape gangs are coming forward because of his voice, and then because Elon Musk took it and put it on social media and expanded that to tens and millions of citizens around the world. So I just felt like tonight, after presenting and doing, a deep dive investigation into what we're facing here in Canada, I just wanted to give a tribute to Tommy. So thank you all for joining me. Please remember, I know it's long, but it's good material. I know it's overwhelming, but we got to hear it. And so please help us educate others. This is going to be a make or break for Canada in the next elections if people don't understand, and if they don't find their voice and have permission to speak out very loudly about this threat. So God bless you. And God bless Canada.
Oh, yeah. There walks a man whose name we cannot speak, for he walked the world of secrets buried deep. A crime of betrayal where harm was allowed. He saw it in this community, ignored by the crowd. He could not stand idle, could not let it lie. Stood tall to be counted, gave his people a cry. He started a movement, his voice to be heard, but the powers above moved to silence his word. Oh, oh, oh. With labels they spun, but this man was forged stronger than timber or gun. The movement grew larger, the nation awoke to the truth. He uncovered the lies that were spoke. Yeah, they cried, this is unrest, but their words were fear of the right he revealed, reaching far and near. From the lowest of places to the heights of the state, every guilty soul stood complicit in hate. They silenced the victims, their voices suppressed, labeled and shamed, put to silence and rest. While families were broken, communities torn, the guilty walked free, their crimes unadorned, and those in power stood right by their side to crush the one man who had turned with the tide. He was the heart of the fight, the light in the dark. They aimed all their force just to tear it apart. Oh, the man we cannot name, he will never bend or break, for truth is the weapon no one can take. Though they lock him away, though they lie and deceive, his spirit stands tall, and we still believe. He's a hero unspoken, truth that he carries will never fade away. Work had grown, he laid down the movement and walked for the lone. He dug deeper still to the root of the crime and ideology dark at the core of the time. Attacked from all sides, he stood firm and true till they threw him in prison for the truth that he knew. His life was in danger, his kin made to pay, while the powers chose sides and looked the other way. Behind cold stone walls where the days dragged on, the media joined in the chorus of wrong, but their condemnation backfired. A story spread wide, more people stood with him, stood firm by his side. Released, he turned tables, exposed every lie, made their false claims crumble beneath the open sky. In the streets of Britain, the people stood strong, and the world started singing his truth all along. Rose up from far lands and far shores. They cut off his funding, his voice from the screen, but his message still traveled unseen. And between victims found courage, the stories were told. Now those in high places let justice grow cold. No inquiry called, no wrongs put to right. Instead they struck down on the man of the light. Oh, the man we cannot name, he will never bend or break. For truth is the weapon that no one can take. Though they lock him away, though they lie and deceive, his spirit stands tall. And we still believe, oh, he's a hero unspoken, oh, a light in the grave, oh, and the truth that he carries will never fade away. Solitary confinement where the mind starts to fray. They tried to break him day after day, but each time they freed him, he rose up once more, stronger in spirit, clearer in core. Now millions march with him across every land. Great hearts and great powers now lend him a hand. He's a hero to many, a threat to the few who still walk among us with secrets untrue. They still try to silence, to smear and to hide, but he's grown far too large with the world on his side. His voice echoes onward across every divide, riding the tide with the truth as his guide. So let us stand with him and carry the flame, for the fight isn't over, it's ours to claim. They may try to break us, to wound and to part, but they'll never, ever break our heart.
chapters across the nation. We are going to be in every town and every city, and we are going to build communities within these communities of like-minded people who are actually going to care for one another again and love on each other and give each other the help when they're down. We are going to use the teams and the people that build within chapters a virtuous heart if you are here today for